I'm here, bro.
Frank, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You cut the hair, bro. What happened? Got
I know. It's
it's
much
easy.
easier. Like,
Exactly. You drop to the seasier, things are so much easier. so
one less thing to worry about.
I know. So you're not in Orlando.
No. I came back. I had a few days away, and I'm flying again. I got to fly somewhere on Monday, and I couldn't get back in time, so I'm missing the first show.
Yeah, I will be there Saturday. I tried to make it to the meet and greet last night, but the show just ran over. Being on the East Coast is terrible. Sometimes I miss the West because you get a jump on the day. Obviously, we wanted to have you on the show for many Matchroom DAZN reasons, and I guess the biggest one, can you confirm the Haney Ryan Garcia being subscription? Because I was watching my DAZN and got a commercial that it says it's part of the subscription. I can screen share that because I took a screenshot. But yeah, can you confirm, is this going to be part of our subscription, or do we have to pay for this? So as you can see, it came on the screen. It says April 20th, Haney versus Garcia as part of your subscription.
Yeah, look, I obviously, I can't. That may be certain territories is part of people's subscriptions. In other territories, it's pay per view as they do with a number of shows. But something the zone, I'm sure, if you contact them, we'll be able to confirm which territories are subscription and which territories are pay per view for it.
All right. And I seen I don't know the exact fight. It'll come to me in conversation, but you guys are splitting the UK rights with Sky Sports for the Jack Catterall
For
fight.
Taylor Catterall.
No, Taylor Catterall. So it's exclusive on the zone in the UK, rest of the world, just excluding the US and Canada, which is with Top Rank, so ESPN. But in the UK, it's exclusive with the zone. No Sky. That's not Sky involved.
Oh,
It
no
may be
Sky.
no, it may be March 8th. They're talking about the Joshua and Ngannou fight, which is live worldwide on the zone, and then it's
Sorry about
UK.
that.
No worries, no worries. In the UK, it's Sky as well.
All right, all right. Another thing, you're quoted, I believe it was by Boxing Social, saying that Liam Paro was never an option, that was more internet chatter, uh, as obviously for an opponent for Sabril Matias. Was that quote accurate?
It's not. He was never an option. I just said in an interview that it's very unlikely it's Liam Parrow, and I doubt it will be Liam Parrow as the opponent. But he was considered. There was certain discussions, but it's still a few things ongoing. Obviously, we announced the Sabriel signing last week, and I think he's going to be in Orlando at the show. And then over the next week or so, we should be able to announce the opponent and the date for his fight.
All right, so in about a week, that's good. That's good. So
And with
that's Danny, my
Matias,
co-host.
regardless of the opponent, will his fight be a homecoming in Puerto Rico?
That's the plan to be in Puerto Rico with it. Yeah, for
So
his first fight with us.
so happy you guys decided to do that. Obviously through the grapevine, they said that was a sticking point for him. That he wanted to go back to his home country of Puerto Rico, and I'm glad you guys are facilitating him with that. I hope the winner of Ryan and Haney can possibly unify in Puerto Rico. And bring some big time boxing back over there. Um, how do you foresee that market to be for Matchroom?
Look, I think it's an amazing market. I think they really get behind their fighters. You've obviously got next week, I believe. Next weekend is Serrano's there, Jake Paul on the card as well, and I think it's a great market for boxing, and we're excited to go there. We're looking forward to new territories and new locations for us. We had a great weekend in Oaxaca just the other week. We had just close to 10,000 people there for an unbelievable night in Mexico. So we want to keep building. We want to keep going around the world and developing and putting on big nights. So yeah, to do our first show there, looking forward to it very much.
Did you expect Noshinga to get the I mean, because we all thought Curiel was going to win. Obviously, what he did in the first fight, the fact that Noshinga didn't get into Mexico till like Wednesday. He had this long flight. I mean, it's in the hometown or home country of Korea. That was a really good fight. Were you expecting the outcome?
Look, I was there when Nonshinga won his title the first time round in Mexico. And I said it in the press conference. It is honestly, I've been lucky enough to go all around the world, watch so many fights. Probably one of the best fights I've ever seen live when he won his world title. And he was shocked. A lot of people were shocked with the way that fight ended with Curiel in Monaco. A lot of people didn't think Curiel had the power to do that. Look back at it, I thought he got caught with a great shot. After 10, 12, 13 seconds, you could see he'd come back round, and it was the perfect shot he got caught with in Monaco. But I knew he had the ability and skill to go in there and do what he did. But one thing was for sure, whichever way it went, it was going to be one of the best fights, and it was a great fight to watch and a perfect game plan by Civi and Colin as well to put that together.
So what is Matchroom's plan with Berlanga? Obviously, he's in, I believe this is his first undefeated fighter, correct?
Possibly, yeah. Look, Paddy McCrory's, it's going to be a tough fight. It's no easy feat. He's got a real fight ahead of him on Saturday, and it's the kind of fight he needs. When we talk about the step-up fights, that he wants to go on to next, he needs to get wins in fights like this, but it's going to be a real fight for him. There's big fights out there to be made, and, look, Canelo's a big fight down the road at some point. If he can get through this, he's the kind of opponent. There's not tons of opponents left. Canelo has literally been through nearly everyone. That's a huge fight. There's been a lot of talk in the past about Munguia as well. There's so many big fights to be made out there for him, but he's got to come through this kind of test first.
I would love the Canelo fight. We haven't seen that Puerto Rican rivalry versus Mexico with Canelo since Miguel Cotto, but he has to be. But Berlanga needs to put himself into position. Do you believe that it's more about his performance on Saturday night can put him in position, or does he still need a certain name before getting Canelo's attention, in your opinion?
I think it's about performance. If he goes in there and takes this guy out in stunning fashion, I think that's important. That's what people buy into. So 100%, I believe it's about the performance on Saturday night. And if he can get a big finish on Saturday, that would set him up for a massive fight.
So obviously today's show is about Haney and Ryan Garcia not only announcing that they're fighting in New York, but also, the potential that I brought up of the commercial that showed it was potentially subscription. Why do you think New York and not anywhere in the West to capitalize off, both men who are from the West Coast?
Look, I think the Barclays Centre is an unbelievable venue. We've done shows there in the past. And I think actually when you look at boxing in New York and Brooklyn over the last few years, there hasn't been huge nights. And I think there's a massive market for it. And I think this fight will sell wherever it goes. It's a massive fight for the sport of boxing. So I think, I think it's a great choice. There's so many fights in Vegas. There's so many, you'd obviously have Canelo, whoever he fights, May 4th in Vegas is always the favourite, option for him. And this is just 2 weeks before. So, I think it makes a lot of sense, something different. We saw that as well when we took Devin Haney, in the Regis Prograis fight to San Francisco. We had a packed out arena there that night, and it made a huge night of boxing. So, I think it's going to work really well, and I think it's a good choice. Like I say, it's been a long time since we've seen a big fight there.
Speaking of that Regis and Haney fight, there really hasn't been any Matchroom or DAZN representatives kind of debunking the pay-per-view numbers that were released. Care to shed any light on that? Obviously, certain sources are reporting 50,000. Was that the accurate number? What number are you authorized to tell us?
No, look, I don't ever talk about numbers for anything. We were very happy, as with DAZN, with the numbers it generated, and that's a big part as well. This fight coming up with Ryan Garcia. You got two big stars of the sport in a huge fight. a huge pay-per-view fight. But everyone was very pleased with the numbers it generated. But you got the wrong man, by the way, trying to get Eddie's the man to give out all the info. I'm the secretive one in the corner.
I hear you, Frank. You're the nice one, man. You're
Frank.
the nice one.
Yeah, I wish everyone thought
Frank,
that. It seems to be the opposite way.
That's my co-host, Danny. Go ahead, Danny.
I'm just. Yeah, I know you can't see me. I'm just curious. Is there any plans moving forward? Whenever watching fights with Eddie, to keep a first aid kit nearby, given the recent incident in Oaxaca?
Yeah, I seen that where he busts his head. Wow.
We've banned him from jumping up and down and getting too excited now. It's his passion for boxing, He couldn't quite contain himself. And it gave him a good story, didn't it? He could go to the hospital and get some say he needed some stitches in there. And he's a promoter, so, it gives him something to talk about.
All right, I got a couple from the people, and we'll get you out of here. We got KDDR in New York. He says, "Hi, Frank. It's Kelvin from New York. Thanks for coming on the show. Congrats on all the big moves Matchroom is doing to bring a better product to the fans and making fights. Do you have any comment or opinion on Eddie Hearn's recent stated that Gervonta Davis refused to discuss a potential $25 million payday to fight Ben?" Did he freeze on me?
You cut out a bit there. Was that about Gervonta Davis?
Yeah, the Davis and the Ben offer, we did see that obviously Eddie said Davis turned it down.
Yeah, look, everyone's within their rights to turn it down. I think it was a very strong offer, very strong guarantee. And, it's one of those things, I'm sure he'll be working on other plans in the background of what he's going to do next. But doesn't stop us from doing something in the future. Still a massive fight, and maybe we can make it one day soon.
Trav,
Frank,
go ahead, Danny.
Yes, last time we had you mentioned maybe discussions that were being had or a conversation that was had with folks regarding a show potentially on Netflix similar to the Drive to Survive model. I'm not sure if the conversations were with Liberty Media, but I know that those talks were had. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, we're in discussions with Box to Box, so the production company that put together Drive to Survive, and a load of the other programming, sporting programming for Netflix. So we're in discussions around that currently. And yeah, hopefully some news soon on that. It would be big for the sport and big for the sports world. We've seen what it's done, in tennis, in golf, and mainly Formula One. It's been huge for the sport. So fingers crossed we can get something done there.
So Frank, again, you obviously can correct me where I'm wrong. I'm just, an enthusiastic boxing fan, wanting the best. But with everything that's going on with Jaron Boots Ennis and him being in a current lawsuit trying to get out of his promotional contract with Now Boxing, where Cameron Duncan, rest in peace, passed away. His wife received Jaron's contract. Doesn't that open the door for Matchroom to be able to deal directly with his wife to buy that contract, as she doesn't have experience? She's not a manager. Given the right offer, she would be willing to sell the contract, no?
Look, we want to work with the best in the sport, whoever that is. Jaron Ennis is a tremendous fighter. You've mentioned there's the situation ongoing in the background. You kind of have to let those things play out, really, and let everything get very clear. Boxing's a difficult business. It can be a messy business at times, and we just we want to make it as easy as possible. So I think let's see how things play out on that front. Everyone's going to want to sign Jaron Ennis. There's not a promoter out there that won't want to sign him, but at the same time, everyone's going to want to deal with it in the right manner and make sure everything's cleared up in the right way. So hopefully they can sort out their issues on that end, and then he can get on with his career, because he's a tremendous fighter, and he did it. He's got a long time left in this sport and he's going to do some great things. But that they've got to get through that first.
Now, obviously, I believe.
Frank.
Let me follow up, Danny. Obviously, I believe that him signing to Matchroom could make him that A side. Now he has the backing to be a headliner. maybe go back to his hometown. Can you just give me like a hypothetical plan that Matchroom would have for Jaron if you were able to successfully, because it isn't like the welterweight division is the best right now. You know, it's really just
Yeah.
him and Stantelian.
Well, look, he's got to be built up. You know, he's a tremendous fighter, but he doesn't really have the profile to go with that. It's a bit like Subriel. You know, he's a brilliant, amazing fighter, but hasn't been built up with, and his profile hasn't gone alongside his boxing ability. So, you know, we want to build him up locally, build him up in the right fights and the right names. You know, that's what we'd have to do. So, look, but everyone, like I say, will want to get involved with him. But it's about having the best possible promoter who can deliver that for you. And look, we've done that time and time again with fighters. So let's see how things play out. But there's a lot that can be done with him. You know, he's done a great job on his own to get where he is, but he's not where he should be in terms of in comparison to his skill.
Frank, two things for me. The first thing being real quick, just because you touched on it, talk about the profile building and obviously developing these fighters. When you as a promotional company is looking at fighters, and when you guys are discussing names of fighters, how much, if at all, does social media matter? Like, do you what when considering how you move a fighter, how you build a fighter, signing a fighter, how much does that matter? And well, I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, look, it's an important factor of it, and it's about building yourself outside of just the sport alone. I think at the end of the day, you need to be entertaining. You know, you need to get in the ring and deliver entertaining performances. That's what number one people buy into. So that's always the focus for us. But yeah, social media is a big part of it, as it is in the world these days. You know, you need to have your own presence, and you need to be willing to invest time in yourself to build that up. It's not for everyone, and you know, some people don't quite understand it, and they'll never really make it to where they should make it in the sport if they don't have the profile to go alongside their boxing ability. But yeah, it's definitely something we look at in a discussion.
And the second question for me, totally off topic. I was just hoping you could give us an update on Alisa Baumgardner. We've seen some of the sanctioning bodies come out. Is there uh, a ring return planned? Is there any updates you can give us on Alisa Baumgardner?
I think, yeah, she's going through the process currently, and it's a process with the ABC to be cleared. You know, and that's something that's ongoing. I think it's getting to the point where it's close to uh, coming to a decision now. You know, it's been, but by the time I think she'd be back in the ring, it wouldn't be far off a year since her last fight, which was July. But yeah, that process is close to being finalised, and you know, I'm sure as soon as details can be released, they will be.
All right, getting back to some of these people, we got Trav in Texas that says, "Hey Frank, it's been great to see Matchroom Queensberry collaboration. Can you tell us a fun moment or exchange between you, Frank Warren, or someone else at Queensberry?"
Yeah, no, look, it's been good working with them. I've had actually got on very well with George for many years, and Francis as well had some dealings with. Um, the first time I met Frank years ago outside somewhere in London, and it was about 4 years ago, and it was all very friendly. But no, look, it's been good dealing with them. I actually had dinner with Frank and a few of us back in London, I think in January, and that alone was quite funny, just sitting next to him. We got a picture of the two of us together because it isn't something that I thought would be happening, even if you would have asked me back in October, November last year.
I have Flock. Well, Smith from Sacramento, California says, "You think we can see Berlanga versus Pacheco end of this year?"
Um, that's a possible fight. That's a great fight. But at the same time, Berlanga at the same time is probably a few steps ahead in terms of, you know, when we talk about we'd love to do the Canelo fight's huge as well for him. But that's definitely a great fight. You know, if those kind of other fights don't materialize, that's definitely a fight we could see this year for sure.
London Runs Boxing says, "Hi, Frank. Firstly, the fans love seeing Matchroom and Queensberry working together regularly. Have you ever spoken with Ben Shalom outside of boxing? You look like you guys would get along. The fans want all promotional companies to work together amicably. and for the better of the sport. Peace and love to you and yours. Okay, so no words. I mean, no question, just love.
Does that mean I have to answer it, or
No,
just
no.
sit there in silence?
I guess he's just, wants to express his gratitude. Nothing much.
I feel
Thank
like
you.
he was asking about the Ben Shalom
Oh
boxing,
yeah, have you
hoping.
ever talked to Ben Shalom outside of boxing? He feels like you guys would get along. That is a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll be going for Christmas beers together, if I'm honest with you. But look, we just want to do the right thing for our fighters. That's our focus. And if that means dealing with Ben Shalom, if that means dealing with anyone, we'll do it. And like boxing business is quite emotional. Too many people get too emotional in the business, and you fall out with people. You don't like people. But if it delivers the best opportunities for your fighters, then everyone should be willing to work together. And a lot of promoters, by the way, would do that. They won't let a personal disdain or dislike get in the way, which is good and is right when it comes to representing athletes.
Were
Frank,
you? Go ahead, Danny.
really quick, I know obviously we're discussing, recently you and Frank and Matchroom and Queensberry coming together, and a lot of that has came obviously through His Excellency Turkey Al Sheikh and the great things that they're doing in Saudi for the sport of boxing. I had a question. It may seem irrelevant, but I watch all sports, Frank, and when I was told that the reason for the AJ fight landing on a Friday was to play around F1 in Saudi, I was like, oh, that's great. But they're not even, it's like happening in totally different parts of the country. I was just curious, like, why wouldn't they just stage the fight in Jeddah to capitalize off the crowd for F1?
Because for me, well, the boxing is part of Riyadh season. So Riyadh season ends. I think it may be this month. I may be wrong, but it's part of the Riyadh season, which has been running, and kicked off obviously with Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou back in October. So the boxing that we've been doing is part of that, and I believe the Formula One, which, as you say, is in Jeddah, is then a separate event outside of the Riyadh season. And look, you can fly quite easily across the two. I think there's going to be a lot of people who come in for those two events. And that race is actually on the Saturday. Normally the qualifying can be on the Saturday, but I think the race itself is on the Saturday.
Correct.
Yeah.
Saturday night, correct. Yep. Okay. I was just curious because I know that came up in conversation, and I was like, obviously Riyadh season is staging, so it would make sense for the event to take place in Riyadh. But appreciate you clarifying that.
Speaking of clarifications, were you able to see the last thing I screen shared for you?
No,
Frank?
didn't see anything.
No, I mean earlier when I said, "Oh, it came up as a commercial and it said part of the
Yeah, I
subscription."
think. Oh, right. Yeah. I think that
Okay.
will be around, as I say, the individual markets.
No, no,
So
no, no. I
some
just wanted to
markets.
make sure you were able to see it because I wanted to screen share something else, which
Oh,
will
right. Okay.
also be
Yeah.
hard to see for you. But this is a
Yeah.
tweet from Jake Donovan. I'll read it for you, not to strain your eyes. Obviously, he says, "Not sure if this was ever addressed. Wasn't my mess to clean up. As far as I know, the rumor was that Michelle Rivera signed to Matchroom, but it is not true, at least not yet anyway." So, is the rumor true yet? Has he signed? Or are you guys interested in Michelle Rivera and it's ongoing?
No, the rumor is not true.
So, no interest because he does say in that tweet, he says, not, at least not yet.
We always look at the best fighters in the sport. We'll continue to do so, but no, the rumors are not true, unless someone hasn't told me.
Okay.
You know,
I mean, he just
big
happens to be
com-
he's a 140 pounder. He's Dominican, PBC invested a lot of money in trying to make him look like Muhammad Ali. I don't know. Puerto Rico versus DR, that's a natural rivalry, especially in Puerto Rico, bringing a Dominican there. I mean, Matisse would get his fan base riled up and behind him. Just saying, throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there, just in case.
Interesting one. I'll check with the guys. They don't tell me much
So,
anymore. I'm more in the background,
Frank,
you know.
well, I don't have a tweet to show you for this, but I have a few friends in the sport. Recently we saw a mega event here in Las Vegas, Super Bowl weekend. I was here, and between T.O. and Jermaine Ortiz, I'm being told that you guys have been perhaps having a few conversations of seeking some interest in Jermaine Ortiz. Can you confirm at least the interest part?
Again, I think if there's good fights to be made and fighters are free and clear, and look, we want to make great fights. That doesn't always mean signing fighters to long-term deals. Is the truth? It's about making great fights that people are going to be interested in. So look, if there's fights out there that make sense, for sure.
I actually like what some of the people I've interviewed that dealt with you have said, and you can correct us here if this is not true, but some fighters say they get a fight with Matchroom and there is a potential deal if they can win. Not hypothetically, like for instance, Dobson was under the impression if he got the win, Matchroom would sign him. And I believe Harold Calderon was under the same impression. And I like that, not only does it make the fighter, more motivated, but at least you're offering that. Can you confirm these types of potential contracts?
Yeah, look, some of the contracts for sure. That's what we look to do, especially when they're going in against our big names that we've built up over the years. If they go and get a big result against them, it sets them up for great fights down the road, whether that be rematches possibly, if that makes sense, or other fights. It means their profile's a lot bigger. So yeah, for sure, that's something we look at doing.
I got Beansman from Dallas, Texas. Howdy, Frank. With Matchroom now being bigger than ever, can we start to get more stacked cards? I feel like we get no double headers or triple header cards. Is that true? Do you feel that way, Frank? Or have you guys put some on?
No, look, I think, you've obviously got Berlanga this week. You've got Andy Cruz on there, who we believe is going to be a future pound-for-pound star as well. Shakram Girsov in a final eliminator. April 6th, you've got Richardson Hitchens against Lemos and Diego Pacheco as well. Two fighters that can individually headline a card. So, we're always looking to stack the cards and put things on there that people are intrigued in. And as a global business, that's always what we look to do. But yeah, we're always conscious of making sure we put the best possible nights on.
We got Rod and go ahead, Danny.
Yep. No, just another quick two-parter. I think you guys have done probably the best job of putting fights in different locations. You've spread it very international. Man, I don't know how many continents now, but obviously you guys have brought us fights all over the world. Curious, what is the location that fans could expect to see this year that maybe we haven't seen before or at least recently? And will Matchroom go back to Chicago where things got started for them back in 2018 here in the U.S.?
Yeah, look, we're lucky to do, like you say there, we're lucky to do shows all around the world and week in, week out. As I said the other week, in Oaxaca, like 10,000 people in that venue. It was an unbelievable night. Africa's somewhere we're focused on now. We're in some discussions there to bring some big nights of boxing there. Some tremendous fighters. So that's something we're looking at currently. And yeah, in terms of Chicago, definitely somewhere we would look to return to. It was a tremendous atmosphere when we did that. I think it was at the Wintrust Arena we went to. That was our first ever show with DAZN in the US, was at the Wintrust in Chicago. So definitely intentions in the long term to go back there with the right fighters that make sense.
Rob from LA says, can we expect for Matchroom to announce any new signings for the U.S. roster anytime soon? Also, why the decision to make Diego Pacheco the co-main for April 6th. He's a star. He should be the headliner. He's the future for Matchroom USA.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of any future fighters looking to sign, we're working on a couple now. So hopefully some news soon on those. But yeah, a couple of names we're looking at. In terms of Diego Pacheco, he had a great homecoming in November at the YouTube Theatre at the end of November. A great win from him in a tough fight. We wanted to go back to LA with him, but the venue wasn't available until the summer. Richardson Hitchens in a final eliminator, which is an important fight. And Diego, we wanted to keep him active and we wanted to keep him busy. He's still very young. I think, although we've had him for a long time and he's in a great position, he's still young and he needs to be kept busy and he needs to keep learning. So this was the kind of fight that we felt was right to sort of double up, and then he'll be back out in the summer, sort of July, August time in LA.
Frank, can you confirm or deny that Richardson Hitchens was offered that fight?
Which
Matias.
fight? No, because he already had the Lemos fight done for the IBF final eliminator.
Okay. Back in December, there was rumors about you guys signing Matias and him going to Puerto Rico, but it was with Hitchens.
No, we were in discussions. Obviously, those discussions have been going on for quite a while in terms of with Subriel, because he was looking at all the options out there for him, as you would do as a free agent. And we couldn't hold up Richardson's next fight. He'd had a stop-start year as well. With a few pullouts, unfortunately.
So you're saying he was an option at one point then?
No. But he'd had a stop-start year. So when the IBF eliminator was there, that's the fight we chose to make because it was ready to go. And we didn't know at that point whether we were going to get Subriel because, as I say, he was discussing with all the potential promoters out there.
I got Ryan Fraser from Toronto, Canada. Hey, Frank, with the IBF ordering Jaron Ennis versus Cody Crowley, should that fight go to purse bid, would you and your team be interested in bringing that fight to Canada's largest city? Actually, I read that wrong. Canada's largest city in Toronto. I'm sorry.
I'd love to bring it
he didn't
to
put
Canada.
no apostrophe. I'm thinking he's writing in Spanish. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring it to Canada. But look, everyone will be looking to get involved in that fight. I'm sure, and let's see. But I'd love to do a show in Canada. So maybe we'll make it happen.
Oh, you guys are funny. Okay, we got Alex from West Palm Beach, Florida. Edgar Berlanga expressed there was a lack of attractive opponents presented to him, which led to him leaving Top Rank. It has been reported that he has one fight left after this Saturday's event, which would have his two opponents be Jason Quigley and Patrick McCrory. What are the realistic targets for his third and final Matchroom fight, with the assumption that he secures the victory on the 24th? Appreciate your time today.
Look, like I said earlier, we got to get him one of those big fights. And, Munguia's have been a fight that's been spoken about for a long time. The Canelo fight would be huge, a massive fight. But it all depends, like a Canelo fight, on how he looks on Saturday. He's got to have a great performance, I think. But that's definitely a fight that's possible for him. And as we said earlier, even the Diego Pacheco fight later part of this year is a brilliant fight, But let's see. He's got a tough fight. A lot of people don't know too much about Paddy McCrory, but he's got a big punch on him, and it could be an interesting fight.
This one really isn't for you, but he thinks it is. But this is more of a DAZN thing. This is Bougie in Broward, Florida. He says, "What's good, Frank? Thanks for pulling up. I've been a subscriber to your app since you started covering boxing. When the price increased every year, I never complained nor canceled my subscription. But now, with the leaking of personal information being out and a class action lawsuit, I hope you on here give the hardworking consumers some answers. Hopefully accommodate us like giving us free tickets to fights or a free subscription, thank you again in advance. But I don't know if you know, but there is a class action lawsuit. A lawyer is alleging that there's been some leaked information.
Personal, yeah,
Yeah.
personal information
Yeah,
from
have you
paying
seen it? Have you
subscribers.
seen it? It's like on Instagram. It's like a commercial too from it. Like it's legit ad from Instagram. But yeah.
No, not something I know about, so I'm not going to comment on it. But
No
yeah, not
comment.
something I've heard.
We got Malcolm in New York. Will you guys ever be open to giving us in the US the same discounted deals on pay-per-view or even lower the price for subscription? Bad enough subscription keeps increasing and a lot of the cards aren't stacked. Something's got to give, Frank.
Yeah, look, it's something we're always working with DAZN with to offer the best possible value, like both across subscription and putting the great fights on as part of your subscription, and then pay-per-view where necessary. You know, when you're in a market, and there's been a lot of talk about pay-per-view over the years, but when you're in a market where you're competing with other broadcasters who are trying to sign the same fighters as you, who will put pay-per-view nights on, you know, and that's the only way to be able to sign some of these fighters, then you have to do it. But at the same time, we know pay-per-view fights should be reserved for the best possible fights. And our job and what we're always told by DAZN is to deliver the best possible schedule as part of people's subscriptions, and that's what we'll continue to work on doing.
Vit,
Frank, I wanted to ask. I've I've covered a good bit of your Matchroom USA shows, especially a lot of the early ones. I was in Chicago. I was at the first one you guys did in LA. It was at the Forum, and you guys did it on a Friday night. And I remember Eddie saying after the fight that it was a lesson learned of doing business in America. He said, you know, I moving forward, I think he said something along the lines of he won't do a show on a Friday night, uh, probably keep it on the weekends. What else have you guys learned from doing, big shows and just doing business in the US that has helped you guys grow and develop? Because it is a culture shock. I know it was one when we went out there for the first time, and I'm sure doing business out here is a culture shock in the sense of things are done differently than in the UK. People don't support the same than they do in the UK. So I'm just curious, like just from a business standpoint, what else have you guys been able to learn from doing shows here in the US?
Look, it's tough. There's a lot of competition, not just in boxing, but across sport in the US. There's so much going on day in, day out. It's an expensive place to do business as well. You know, the cost of doing things is a lot more expensive. But over the last, I'm saying 7 years, 8 years now, we've learned so much, and we've been involved in some of the biggest nights in US boxing over the last few years. We broke the record of the Cowboys with Canelo against Billy Joe Saunders. Like for us as a business, that was a huge night for us. Like being able to come over to the US and do something like that. We've had many great nights at Madison Square Gardens, whether that was Anthony Joshua against Andy Ruiz. The result didn't go the right way, but the night did. Whether it was Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, whether it was events we've done, Phoenix have been great. We've traveled all around the US now. And look, we've learned a lot, and it's all about learning. You're not going to go in there and be an expert in day one, but I think we're in a strong place now, and we'll continue to grow and build. And we're not the finished article yet, but there's
we lost you a bit, Frank.
sorry, mate. You got me now?
Yep. So we got Octo that says, how has it been working side by side with Eddie Hearn, and what have you learned from him?
Yeah, look, it's been great. I've known Eddie now since I was 14 years old when I first met him, and we're very different people. Like people compare us, but we're very different. He is the front man, salesman, showman, and I'm in the background. I prefer to be in the background. He's the big talker, and he's given me a lot of opportunities, which I'm very thankful for as well. So, it's been a long journey because when you think I met him when I was 14 years old, and when he was, I don't know, 28 maybe, something like that, and he didn't really get into his peak of press conferences, etc., until 31, until he was my age that I'm now. I'm 31 years old now. So when I get compared to him, I'm sort of a lot earlier in my career than he was when he started back in it. But I've learned so much from him. But I think it's been a good pairing because we're two complete opposite personalities. He has a huge passion for the sport. I'm not saying I don't, but I didn't grow up with it, so I take a different view sometimes to maybe views that he would take. So it's been a good journey.
Last one is from Beansman. He wants to know if you guys can ever put on a card similar to the Keith Thurman card. He's saying that has 5 championship fights. He would like to see Matchroom do something like that. I don't know if you've seen their announcement. Obviously, it's Keith Thurman versus Tim Tszyu, Isaac Cruz versus Rolly Romero.
I mean,
yeah,
let Eddie tell it. Let Eddie tell it. He says that you guys do that all the time. That you guys just throw stuff together.
Yeah, but they're under pressure. They're doing one show. They're supposed to be, look, PBC have done a tremendous job in the sport, but at the same time, they've spent a lot of money to get to that point. They've announced one show in 4 or 5 months. They represent 100 odd fighters, maybe even more. They're under pressure to do that, and they're also under pressure because the reality is that card's probably not a pay-per-view card. It's just the truth. So they have to position it in a different way. They're doing one show in the time that we've done 13 shows all around the world in that 3-month period. So it's different businesses, it's different ways of looking at things. We look to stack cards week in, week out, but they have different pressures now because they've got to get a load of fighters out with limited dates. It seems anyway.
No, you're right about that. I think that is the last question from the people. I guess the only one I'll put out there is with all the Canelo rumors, is that making Matchroom excited of the possibility of this quote-unquote guarantee not being able to be met? Because you keep saying Berlanga and Canelo. Like, how do you get Canelo over there if he still has 2 fights left with PBC?
No, I think that's just something where if there's not a fight there, if he hasn't got options, that's a great fight as well. And look, we loved working with Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, we had great nights with him. We promoted many shows with him. And I'm sure he's got his situation going on over there. But let's see. Maybe in the future, he's always gone across to various promote when it made sense for him and his career. So let's see how things play out. But everyone would want to work again. He's one of those fighters. Everyone wants to work with Canelo Alvarez. No one's sitting there going, we don't want to be involved with Canelo Alvarez. He's the star of the sport and will continue to be. He said the other day he wants to box for another 5 years. So, yeah, well, I'd be stupid to say we didn't want to work with him if the opportunity ever arose.
All right. Well, Frank, that's everything, man. I want to thank you, as always, for giving us the time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, man, and keep doing. Actually, does it bother you? You're like to highlight your upbringing. I always find it fascinating. You know that. I'm not gonna do it today to not make it a daily a routine on an interview, but the way you got into the sport. I love that story, and I feel like more people hear it, you can give them motivation. So I just wanted to say, does it bother you if I bring it up all the time? Damn, did he freeze? Oh, he froze.
Am I here?
Oh, you're there.
I'm here. No, that's how much it bothered me. I went to leave. I said, I can't deal with this anymore. No. I don't mind it. I will always live on the fact that I was the T-boy and will always have that same mentality that I started out with. So, and I think in the generation, as the generations change, people's mentality change. And I was very much brought up in a mindset of work harder than anyone else. And I still have that now, even though I've changed position, my mentality will never change. And that doesn't really bother me. I think, in any way you can, if it can help anyone, if it can help one person have the right mindset, then great. Not saying my mindset is necessarily right. It's just worked for me.
All right. Well, Frank, thanks again. If you want to give out your social media, please do so. And thank you for joining the show.
Last
Thanks,
thing,
guys.
Frank.
Appreciate it.
I'm Frank. Last thing.
That's the third
And
last
this is a
thing.
yes or no. This is a yes or no. But does Max make it 3 years in a row? Does he win 3 years in a row? I know you watch a bit of Formula One. I'm just curious.
I think I haven't watched much of it. But yeah, I think Max does it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, testing started this weekend in Bahrain, and he's already got the fastest time posted, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, I think
it'll
Max
be an
wins it
interesting
this
year. But appreciate your time, Frank. We won't take any more of it. Look forward to having you back.
Cheers, guys. Good to speak. See you soon.
Likewise. There you have it, ladies and gents. Frank Smith, CEO of Matchroom.
Family, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us get to that 1 million subscribers. We're on the road to 1 million. And obviously, we have other great content on our Patreon channel. So since this video is over, head on over to our Patreon and check out all the exclusive content or right here on our YouTube members.